Hey, good morning. Hope you guys are having a good day today. I just wanted to talk to you, share some thoughts. This is going to be a little philosophical today. Yesterday was day 9 for me, and the cravings were extremely strong yesterday. I wanted to use Kratom, um, but instead I began observing my thoughts. Basically thinking to myself, why am I wanting to use kratom right now? What is going on in my brain that is causing that craving so strong? And I mean, it was strong, probably a level 9, maybe 10. And it happened pretty much in the second part of the day. Um, so I just began to observe my thoughts. And you know what I found? The inner nihilist. Now, I've always been a little bit nihilistic. Not not in the classical sense, but just I've always sort of thought society was messed up. For a long time I've been thinking that way. I don't know why, but it's sort of just in me. I feel that way, and I felt that way. I'm a little bit of an anarchist, you know. I think this whole thing is just messed up, and that we need to go back, even though we can't. I understand that, but I feel like, sometimes I feel like we need to go back to a certain way of living, and that's for another video, but I don't like the way society's structured whatsoever. But anyway, so I found the inner nihilist, and I said, oh, there she is. And one thing about kratom is, if you get really far in the addiction, you're going to find your inner nihilist. And this is what I hear from most people that get far, far into kratom, is they find themselves basically in an isolation cell. Okay? So I think there's three phases of kratom. The first phase is the enchantment phase. This plant, it totally enchants you, it mesmerizes you. You feel very blissful, euphoric. It shows you things in a new way. It's very beautiful in the beginning. Even sexual stuff is really heightened. Everything is just heightened. This is why I think this plant sort of opens the third eye a little bit, because things just seem much brighter. And that was my experience, and most people I've talked to felt that way too. Then the second phase is when you start getting irritable and needing more and more and more. And it starts to really sort of get a hold of you. And I heard one of my friends on YouTube saying that it's like a chia pet in your stomach. It starts to grow and grow and grow. And I like that analogy. That's exactly what happens with kratom, is it does that. It starts to grow. It's almost like the tree is taking root inside of you. And so that's that phase. You're irritable. You need more. You need to feed this chia pet. And that's what he said. And I agree. That's what it's like. And in that stage, you're not feeling that great. You're starting to see some downsides of this plant. But it's too late. You're now hooked, and you're in deep at this stage. This is probably about a year into it. I would say a year, maybe a year and a half. This is where you're going to really start to see the downsides of the plant. And by that point, your desires for life, the things you used to like to do, are no longer interesting to you, And relationships at that point are gonna start taking a fall. You're not gonna really want to be around people that much. And the plant is now taking over, okay? It's consuming you, and we go then from that stage to what I call the dark stage, the isolation stage. This is where it takes you to an isolation cell. It locks you in there, and you begin to learn about nihilism, basically. You are now feeling hopeless. You see, the plant starts to show you everything that's wrong with the world, everything that's wrong with society, everything that's wrong with you too, in some ways. Maybe not all people experience that, but I did. So it starts to really show you all the bad stuff, and to the point where it almost convinces you to, jump off a cliff, basically. Now, I don't know if I should even go there, but I sort of think this plant, the reason it's reached America, the reason it's branched out, so to speak, I think this plant is here to teach us something, because our society is very, very messed up. And for those of us who have been in kratom addiction, I'm sure that a lot of us have experienced this isolation stage. And in a way, isolation is a good thing for a little bit, not for your whole life, but that's a stage. It's very lonely, but it's a stage for deep thinking, and a lot of reflection, and that's what where kratom's going to lead you. Honestly, if you're going to get far into the addiction, that's where you're going to go. You're going to go into an isolation tank. So it shows you everything wrong with the world. It now controls you fully. You're fully controlled by it. Now, Nirvana has a really good song back in their punk rock days. I love punk rock music. I love classic rock, is my favorite genre. But I love Kurt Cobain's writing. He's an absolute genius. If on the surface, it just sounds like, punk rock. Some of it's punk rock light. But if you really look at his lyrics, he's extremely, he's just a genius. I mean, he's a total genius. Extremely artistic. Very, he's a deep thinker, and I love his stuff. But he has a song called Sappy, and to me that song exactly explains kratom addiction, in this stage, the dark stage. And he says, in the lyrics, he says, "He'll keep you in a jar and you'll think you're happy." Oh, I'm sorry, hold on. He says, "And if you fool yourself, you will make him happy. He'll keep you in a jar, and you'll think you're happy. He'll give you breathing holes, and you will seem happy. You'll wallow in your shit, and you'll think you're happy now." That, to me, explains this stage of kratom, the dark stage. Your own, basically. And this plant is now controlling you. And it's taking you for a ride, and this is a very, very difficult stage to get through. And for those of you who have gotten through it, I really commend you. And I did get through this one time in my last 9-month sobriety from kratom. I got through this, but here's the thing about this plant, and this is why I'm so torn if this thing should even be out there, this plant. But all right, so back in the day when I was going through my separation and divorce, in my late 20s, well, I guess more like mid 20s, but I had to go to what's called a crisis center to just work out. I was kind of losing my cool. And I needed to get some help, I needed to talk to somebody. I needed to get some support for what I was going through. And that's a whole nother topic, but that was a very, very hard time in my life. And I met this guy at the crisis center. He he was my age at the time. He was so cute. He was really had a great personality. Uh, However, he had gotten addicted to heroin and meth for quite some years. And sorry, I got my coffee here. I had never ever been in the heroin world, okay, at all. Uh, I know about it, but I never even been around it, you know. So, because in the town I'm from, in Southern California, the main thing in my town was meth, because I was right on the outskirts of San Diego, in the desert area, and there's a whole lot of meth out there. So, our thing, you know, our drugs that were available at that time was the hardest drugs was meth. But anyway, this guy, Brandon, was telling me about heroin, and he was telling me that, you know, he had relapsed after 5 years and back on heroin, and he lost his relationship because of it, and it was the love of his life. And you know, I got to thinking, I asked him, like, well, why did you go back if you were happy and in love and all this and your life was going good? And he told me about this phenomenon of how heroin and opiates rewire your brain. And he said, you know, it rewires your brain and it's very hard to fight it. And I felt pretty bad for him at the time, because I was like, geez, you know, I can't imagine going through something like that, having my brain rewired. And I feel like Kratom did that to me. Um, Now, I know it's not like heroin. I know it's a partial antagonist of the opioid mu receptor. I know that, but there's a lot of other stuff in Kratom. I don't know what exactly, but like I said, there's not much studies on this plant. But um, basically, Kratom, I feel like it rewires the brain in the same way that classic opiates do. Um, so this is what I was thinking about yesterday when I was having my cravings, and I was just trying to think, like, is this craving, what is this? Do I actually want the plant, or why am I even going there right now? And as I did some mindfulness and was paying attention to my thoughts, I was like, oh, it's the inner nihilist. What happens is this plant, and I'm sorry, I'm going to try to communicate this the best I can. This plant sort of rewired my brain in a way where I really tapped into that nihilistic aspect of the third stage that I was telling you. And once you've seen the world like that, once you've seen, once the plant has showed you how, I guess, hopeless the world is, and that's not true, by the way, but that's just what the plant shows you, and it shows you how hopeless things are, and how just messed up things are. Once it shows you that, it sort of trains you to ease the pain, ease the anguish with the plant. So I was noticing the connection there. I was like, okay, so I'm having these thoughts about all the bad things about the world, and there's a lot of bad things. Of course, everything's messed up, especially after this COVID thing. And by the way, if you were in your addiction during COVID, please stand up. I was in my addiction during COVID, heavily. And I know there's a lot of people out there who really kicked this thing up during COVID, just like I did. And so that was a double, you know, because not only were we dealing with this Kratom addiction, and it was taking us down this labyrinth, but also we were really, we were in isolation also from the virus, and also we began to question everything, didn't we? During COVID, we began to question the structure of our society. We began to question the authorities. Everything was questioned, okay? Um, so basically, you know, I started having all those thoughts about just, it basically, what it does is it starts to tell me, or my brain starts to say, what's the point of this? It starts to make me feel like, am I just like a little worm down here? Like, I'm talking from like on a galactic scale. What are we really? Or am I just like a little worm in the ground that just has no purpose, no meaning, and there's no point? And in that case, the my brain will say, why don't you just go ahead and take some of this plant over here and just kind of fade out, you know, because it doesn't matter anyway. It doesn't matter. That's the kind of thinking that Kratom brought on, like induced in me. And even after you stop Kratom, those thoughts are still there, because you've been there. You know that thinking. It's in you now. It has rewired your brain in that way. And once you go, you can never come back. And that's kind of my point of this video. Kratom brings out the inner nihilist. Now, I know I'll be able to persevere and get out of this thing, but it truly is like a labyrinth, you know. You have to find your way out. This plant really takes you on a ride. I mean, it really, really does. And it bothers me sometimes online. I see people that are in the enchantment phase, you know. They're glorifying the plant. They're totally enchanted. And I can't hate on them, because I've been there. Of course I've been there. Any of us Kratom addicts have been in the enchantment phase and were die-hard defenders of Kratom. And so we can resonate with these people, but at the same time, it's hard to read or see or hear about. It's hard to read because, you know, we know where it goes. We made our way through the labyrinth, and we ended up in an isolation cell, you know. So we know where this plant takes you. Now, that could be a good thing, you know. Some people, like for me, I choose to look at it like, wow, what an adventure. I'm an adventurous person, though, but this is an adventure of the mind, you know. Queens of the Stone Age has a lyric where they say, a journey through the desert of a mind with no hope. That's where Kratom takes you. It takes you through a journey through a desert of a mind with no hope. It opens that door in your mind, and that's where Kratom takes you. And it's quite, you know, you gotta be strong to, you know. This is why I think I'd actually like to know how many suicides are actually brought on by this plant. I'm sorry to talk like that. I really am, guys. I don't want to be a ball buster. I know this pickle, this double-edged sword of this plant all too well, and I'm sorry to talk like that, but I do kind of wonder how many people it's driving over the edge. The thing is, everybody's so hush-hush about this plant, so it's hard to tell who's actually giving in. You got to be really strong to make it through that dark stage. But for people that have made it through the dark stage, the hopelessness and where the plant brings you, what it shows you, I commend you, and I'm calling you to stand up. You don't have to show your face. I don't show my face because this is a super political topic, and I am very private anyway. The only reason I want to do this is not for attention for me. It's for, because that's another issue. I hate this society. I'm sorry to talk like this, but too many people are so attention hungry. They want you to look at them. They want to, pictures and this and that. And that's okay. I mean, it's just so overkill now, and I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want to be like that. I can't stand that. That's why I don't even have social media. I don't want to see, I don't want to fall into that. I got a lot of things to do, and that's not one of them. But you don't even have to show your face, okay? You can do like I'm doing, light a candle, just go on a little rant, because here's the thing, guys. Kratom is so rampant right now that in a couple years, there's going to be people, if you put out your experience with it right now on YouTube or whatever platform you choose, in a year or two, a lot of people are going to have their experience with Kratom, just like we did, is going to land where ours landed, and they're going to be looking for testimonials, validation. They're going to think, what am I going through? In this third stage, they're going to go, what am I going through? And they're going to be looking for people that they can resonate with, people to shed some light on the situation. You see this angel right here with holding a lantern, They're going to be looking for that. So, be a light, share your story. Because as we know, there's a lot of people just glorifying this plant on YouTube, and they're not being real about it. And this is actually working against them, by the way. And I'm not trying to cause a war or anything, but just saying, like, that's going to work against them. Because when this anecdotal information comes out and we realize that just basically all these lies that these vendors have been pushing, some of these vendors are so, these bigger vendors are so greedy and careless that they actually pay people to go on YouTube and spread false information about this plant, So, people that have really had this happen to them need to speak up. They need to speak up because we need just more information out there about it, guys. And for those of us who have been through the labyrinth of Kratom, and we probably don't regret it. I don't really regret it. I don't regret anything, especially with the plants, especially with nature. I'm just that kind of a person. I really think this plant reached out to me. So I'm not worried about it. I mean, it's just that I really hope it's not around when my kids start to get older, because I don't want them going through this. I mean, they'll go through their own trials and tribulations, but when they're approaching, their hardcore teenage years, I don't want this stuff floating around the high school, rewiring the brains of our youth, turning them into nihilists, because God only knows what'll happen then. I mean, school shootings, all that. Anyone? Okay, so anyway, that's all I really want to say today. It's just a little philosophical talk. I love philosophy. I love religion. Not hardcore religion, but Taoism, Christianity, Native American Great Spirit, Gnosticism. I like all of that. I like to study all of that. I just love all these things. Actually, tonight I'm going to a meeting called Celebrate Recovery, which is part of the Christian church, Methodist church. It's a very, it's not a fundamentalist type of church at all. So I like this church. I'm going to go to their recovery group. And what I like about their recovery group is it's separated. The men and women are in different rooms. No hating on the men. I'm sorry. It's just, I prefer just to share with the females because it just cuts out a lot of the bull crap. I don't want to be opening up too much to the opposite sex, you know, for obvious reasons. But so I do like Celebrate Recovery, and I do promote that if anybody needs a recovery group. I know NA and AA and all that, you know, they're co-ed, and that can be a problem sometimes. You know, you don't want to go to a recovery meeting and share your inner soul and then get hit on afterwards. You know, that's not fun, and it's not cool, you know, for me at least. I'm more serious about this stuff. So I like Celebrate Recovery for that reason. You separate into groups after the meeting, and that's nice. The men are with the men, the women are with the women, and it's nice that way. It's much more structured. So I recommend that. If you are looking for a recovery group, I'm going to hit up that one tonight. Bring my kids up there. We're going to have dinner with them, and I'm thankful for that group. So anyway, I will talk to you guys later. I hope you have the most amazing day. This is day 10 for me, and I'm just rolling. I'm glad I got through that craving, and I'm going to have a good day today, even though it's some sort of Arctic blast coming about. I guess we're cold over here in Western Carolina. It's cold. It's dreary. It's rainy. It's bleh. And I wanted to get out there and take a walk, and I still will, but we're below 40 and it's cold, and I'm going to have to bundle up. For those of you in the north, you probably think that's funny that I think that's cold, but yeah, to me that's freezing. It's just not doable. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to put on my they call them toboggans out here. Why, I don't know. But I'm going to put on my beanie, and my jackets, and my boots, and I'm going to walk these doggies. And, yeah, I'm going to be going back to the workforce soon, and that's nerve-wracking. I wish I didn't have to this early in the recovery process, but I got to make money, you know. I got to keep the ball rolling, and I need to stay busy. So I have been job interviewing. I had 2 of them yesterday, and that also was triggering because I'm going to have to go back out there into the marketplace and be around people and all this, and it's a little tough when you're this early coming off the stuff. But again, you got to be strong. You know, you got to be strong, and you got to buck up and just do what needs to be done, you know. So that's me right now. And anyway, I've made this video way too long, so I hope you have a great day. Thank you.